It is hard to describe, but look, I certainly saw images first, and then I did come up with the opening line, which is nobody knows where they come from, but they come. And from that, all these other pictures came, and then I sort of worked out words to go with the pictures. And when I finished, I realised I had a kind of poem, but I hadn't intended to write it that way. So I put it at the end, just on its own, just the words, so that you could see the words on their own as well. But otherwise, it's just a long visual experience, really.
So was it hard to do a dance between those, the words turning up and the images, and sort of they encouraged each other? Or...
Yeah, and it's amazing, the fewer the words I used, the more images they seem to generate, and that's why the book became longer and longer, in a good way. And so, you know, it just became a mostly visual experience, but the words are pretty important to it, I think.
So really it was, I mean, I suppose all making something is a feeling of play or of exploration, but would you say was particular in this book? Had you given yourself a new license to do that?
Yeah, I had to give myself a fair bit of license to create to work in a longer format and I guess tell a story the way I'd never told it before, and wasn't familiar with it being told in this particular way. It's sort of a blend of picture book conventions and graphic novel conventions and photographic conventions and things like that, and I just kept playing around with that till it felt right, and yeah, the book came out of that. So yeah, it was a lot of fun actually.
And because it's such as you're saying, it's really a groundbreaking work form-wise, were there conversations with friends or editors that helped that, or did it seem quite in a studio-based exploration?
Not really. I work in a converted roof space, which is also, you could call it an attic, but you can't really stand up. It's meant to just be for storage. But I have to work up there because that's the only space we've got. And I spent months and months up there working on this thing and wondering if it was really, you know, how on earth anyone would make anything of it. And I think it took about 6 months of just developing before I was sort of worked up the courage to show it to someone else, because I thought it might look like I'd gone mad. And so, but you know, luckily, as I showed people, they seemed to get what I was trying to do, and that was good.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I'll pass this along, so you're holding it. So here it comes.
Thank you.
Okay. Tohby Riddle and Unforgotten. And finally, to Peter Foster, is for the term of his natural life, has a great script, which is written by Marcus Clarke back in 1870s. Peter, is that right?
Later, I think.
Later?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I forget figures like that. Sorry.
So it was originally published in black and white.
Yeah.
Yeah, back in 1986.
Yes.
Yes. But finally, we are able, you and I, lucky us, to see it in full colour, courtesy of Matt Emery, who is here, his Pitica Press. So, Peter, I'm going to pass you this book, and it's a larger format than it was in the old.
Indeed,
yeah,
it is.
Fantastic.
Yes. Matthew likes publishing it at that size, and I agree with him too.
Great. There we go. So,
Thank you.
Peter, can you talk to us about revisiting our work after this long and recolouring, or colouring it for the first time? Yes?
Yes.
Was this enjoyable, or did it feel like a younger you whipping you on to do it? I mean, how was that time, that sense of time with you as an author, you know, whatever that is, 20 years ago now, and then doing this work on it now?
Well, we all know there's a difference between time and eternity, and it seemed like an eternity for me to colour it all in, but I had the time, so the eternity wasn't so bad. I retired about 11 years ago, and naturally looked for an opportunity to do a bit of colouring in of the black and white material that I owned, and without any great thought of actually it being something that will eventually be seen. But of course Matthew comes along, digs me out from my grave, and I've already got it done. So, you know, it took about, I don't know how long it took, because I'd do it for, say, 2 weeks in a row, and then I'd drop it for a month. And I didn't take a diary and say, you know, page 3 done today or anything like that. I just kept doing it until it was finished.
So, Peter, it sounds like you embarked on a bit like what Toby was saying a moment ago. You sort of went into it as a project of its own fulfilment, really. You know, I sort of embarked on it without that.
I think Toby gave a very good example of the creative process. You start, then you add a little bit more, and it gives you more ideas, and you keep on adding. That's about it. But I didn't start this project. A publisher came to me and wanted it.
Yep.
The fact that he pulled out after I'd done about 15 pages gave me a bit of a jaw drop. Made a big noise when my jaw landed on the floor, you know. But then some other publisher picked it up afterwards. So that's how it got to be done in the black and white version back in 1986. The publisher was a publisher called Greenhouse, and they were in Bridge Road, Richmond, and they since, quite some time ago now, been sold out to, I think it was Australian paper mills, something like that.
And Peter, what are you drawing things at the moment as well? Like new?
Not too much drawing now because
Yes.
my hand's liable to go off on its own.
Wow, that could be interesting material.
I'm not in title control, you know.
Yes.
I am for a little bit, and I think, well, this is going great. Also, I'm having a little difficulty judging between the space of between the paper and the end of the nib. I can't quite get it in focus.
Right.
But colouring in Photoshop is a piece of cake, and it's very enjoyable. There's a lot of icing on it.
Nice. That's very tasty. Very tasty.
Yeah, very tasty. And I like to muck around with it creatively, you know, to use the things that they've put in filters and all of that kind of stuff.
Great. Well,
Gradations and whatever.
so quite a lot of play and fun to be had there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like us now to join together as one big arse, or skinny arse, really, and to launch these books. And the way we do that in Melbourne is to shout the word huzzah. And we shout it 3 times. And we do it with gusto. So on the count of 3, I'd like you to give 3 huzzahs for these remarkable books, these hunting out into unknown waters, these explorations, these experiments where these intrepid souls are taking our souls into new lands. So on the count of 3, 3 huzzahs, please. 1, 2, 3. Huzzah! 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 These books are launched! And now you can go and buy all of them and multiple copies thereof around Academics sales table there behind us. And these chaps, Stephen Scott, I think, will sign it probably for David. Actually, he might even sign it from Ayn Rand if you're really, really lucky. Where will the signing happen? Bruce, what do you reckon? Right over there at these tables. Oh no, through that next room, through the curtain. No.